What can you do with 370,000 ringgit? Which cars can you buy? Which house can you buy? You can do a lot of things with that money, but you can also buy the car parked behind me, the Audi Q3 Sportback. Now this car is not exactly new in the Malaysian market. In fact, it's been here for about 3 years already, but it's not exactly cheap. Perhaps that's why we have not seen so many of the Audi Q3 Sportbacks plying our Malaysian roads. But is that a reason that is keeping buyers away from the Q3 Sportback? In this video, we want to explore what is it exactly that is keeping buyers away from the Q3 Sportback, because in my books, I really am not seeing that many Sportbacks on Malaysian roads. Now, the main difference between the regular Q3 and the Sportback is obviously the design, because the Sportback has, well, quite obviously a Sportback design, which just basically means that the rearwards of the car is sloped quite aggressively. And usually this would mean that the interior has, well, there's a sacrifice to be made when the roof suddenly drops like this. But as I found out during a recent trip with my family to Ipoh, it actually it's not that bad. It is on the smallish side, but I wouldn't say that it's a deal breaker. The design though is quite lovely. Let me show you. The model that we are seeing here right now is the 2.0 model, hence why you're seeing the honeycomb design, the LED headlights, and it basically means that this is a quattro car, which means it's a permanent all-wheel drive machine. I'll get to that shortly. But if you come over here, you get 19-inch wheels, this beautiful blue color, the sloping roofline which I was mentioning to you earlier, more LED rear lights as I was telling you about earlier, and you might think that you may not get that much space inside, but at over 500 liters, it's actually not that bad. It's good enough to go about your daily business. After all, the Q3 is the car for an urban roundabout. If you want a bigger SUV from Audi, you have the Q5 as well as the Q7, not to mention the Q8. But the Q3 though, as you can see, it's good enough already. Now from the driver's seat, everything feels well put together. Now keep in mind that this is a car that has been in the market for about 3 years now. That is quite a long time in the lifespan of any car. But yet again, it doesn't feel dated. It feels actually quite new. I like the S-Spec sport bucket seats. They really cocoon you and hold you in place. They have this manual thigh support here, which there's a lever over here for you to pull it and put it back in place. You get this digital display that gives you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It doesn't come with wireless support, so you have to have a proper either Android or Apple wire to actually get access to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get a 10.25-inch screen, Audi MMI screen over here, that basically gives you access to 2 different designs. It's either sport or your normal display. There's not much difference in between the both, but you do get your usual access to your mileage, your engine temperature, your range and such. So this is actually quite important, and I actually quite appreciate. I'm a big fan of the Audi MMI cockpit because it's just clear, it's crisp, it's fuss free, and it's very easy to read. I'm also a big fan of the flat bottom S-line Audi steering wheel. Now this is really cool. Not only that, but it feels high quality. Besides that, space is decent. You get this very conventional gear shifter, an electronic parking brake, as well as auto hold. You also get a lane departure alert. It alerts you when there's a car coming. And besides that, you do not get much in terms of passive safety systems, in terms of adaptive cruise control and such. So besides that, it's not exactly a deal breaker, but it's quite expensive of a car to not have all those systems in place already. The back seats of the Q3 are obviously on the smallest side. As I mentioned earlier, the Q3 is not obviously the biggest SUV in the Audi lineup, so space is quite tight. The front seat is adjusted to my preferred driving style. I'm about 6 feet tall, roughly about 180 centimeters. So as you can see, space is tight. Headroom though is quite generous, and I'll tell you, the Toyota Vios has versatile as it is, has lesser headroom than the Q3 Sportback. That's just for reference. You do get rear air conditioning vents, you do not get any USB ports, you do get more storage space over here in the form of cup holders, and that's about it. You also get ISOFIX mounts over here, which have these detachable covers over here, which means that if you want to use the ISOFIX mounts, you have to actually take away the ISOFIX covers. So is it comfortable? Not exactly. I wouldn't want to spend 200 kilometers in this back seats, but it's not a deal breaker, as I said earlier. But I would like to bring your attention to the fact that for your regular child lock, now the Audi Q3 is obviously an SUV, so you might be carrying your children, your family around. Now if you're doing so, you might want to lock your rear doors, and to do so you might want to activate your child lock systems. To do that, usually you either have to engage a lock over here or put your key in to turn it around, but not with the Audi Q3. I'm sure other Audis do this as well, but if you can see, there's nothing much going on over here. So to engage your child lock systems, you only have to press either one of these two buttons. Now this means both the doors are actually have their child lock systems engaged. Now if I want to disengage them, I just press this and press this. That means that the back doors have their child lock disengaged. I think this is a very cool system. It's just electronically engaged and disengaged. I think more cars should have this system, because it can be quite tedious to come in here and actually manually adjust them and such, especially when you're already on the move on the highway and you realize that your back doors do not have the child lock safety systems in place. So that usually means that you have to find an R&R, park the car, engage them and start moving. So in electronically adjustable systems such as this, makes your life that much easier. Power is provided by a 2-liter turbocharged engine producing about 180 PS and 320 Newton meters of torque from a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's not exactly powerful. In fact, when I was driving to Ipoh, I found it hard to keep up with cars at about some pretty illegal speeds that I will not mention over here, right? So anyway, efficiency is definitely the name of the game over here. To be honest, I was stuck in a 3-hour jam from Ipoh back to KL yesterday. Traffic jam was enormous, but I saw a fuel consumption figure of 7.4 liters per 100 kilometers. So in that sense, efficiency was quite decent. And keep in mind that this is an all-wheel drive car, not only that, a permanent all-wheel drive car. So power, usually fuel consumption for such cars are usually on the higher side. So 7.4 liters per 100 kilometers is quite decent. The Audi Q3 Sportback is not exactly new to the Malaysian market. Audi Malaysia had in fact introduced the Sportback sometime towards the end of 2020, or was it towards the beginning of 2021, and they did so quietly. But the real question here is, why are we not seeing more of the Sportbacks in Malaysia, on our Malaysian roads? We see quite a bit of Q3s, but very little, in fact almost none of the Sportbacks. If you know of anybody that is driving a Sportback, please tag them in this video. I would like to know more about why we are not seeing more of the Sportbacks in Malaysia, which I think is a bit of a pity because it is quite a good car. There's no doubt about it. It may not be very big, but I did take my family for a short weekend's getaway to Ipoh for 3 days. So of course it was a little bit cramped. I would have liked more space, but the boot space measures in at a little over 500 liters, which meant there was plenty of space for a weekend's getaway. Comfort was, besides space being a little bit on the tighter side, comfort was decent. The tire noise, well, in terms of insulation, you get quite a bit of tire noise that is coming back, that protrudes back into the cabin, but that depends on the surface that you're driving on. Right now I'm on the Federal Highway and the interior is quite a bit noisy. Besides all of that, the car also doesn't come with the most advanced safety systems. Of course, it has the usual passive and active safety systems, traction control, ABS, EBD, vehicle assist. All of this comes standard, but you don't get things like adaptive cruise control, rear cross traffic alert, and all of that which cheaper cars have. Now, other than that though, you do get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you get this beautiful flat bottom steering wheel, some really gorgeous seats that are quite comfortable. You get quite a nice car, there's no doubt about it. You also get the Audi MMI cockpit with this 10.25-inch digital meter panel over here, which is one of my favorites. Okay, there's not much difference between the sport display and the regular display, but that's fine. Now, the real thing over here is the price of the car. At about 370,000 ringgit on the road, it's not cheap, guys. And it's powered by a 2-liter turbocharged engine making 180 PS and about 320 Newton meters of torque, 0 to 100, 7.8 seconds. It's just not very exciting. Top speed 220 kilometers per hour. If I put my right foot down, I'm in regular mode right now, it does this. It just doesn't go anywhere really fast. But on my trip back from Ipoh yesterday, I was seeing a fuel consumption figure of about 7.7 liters per 100 km. Right now, I'm doing about 8.4 liters per 100 km. So efficiency, yes, it's not bad in terms of efficiency. If I'm not mistaken, the fuel tank measures in at about 60 liters, and this is a Quattro Audi. That means it's full-time all-wheel drive. So the consumption figures are actually not bad at all. I have a remaining range of about 120 kilometers and I'm still at a quarter tank. Not bad lah. So efficiency is quite decent, even though performance takes a beating. I can't say much about that, but what is the real issue here, the elephant in the room when it comes to the Audi Q3 Sportback, is the fact that it is really expensive. 370, 360 plus in fact. It just smack bang in the middle of some really nice cars. The A35 AMG is a beautiful car, there's no doubt. You know, you even have the BMW M340, which is slightly more expensive, about 20 to 30,000 ringgit more expensive. But that is an amazing car, and that just doesn't translate to a lot of difference when you consider the difference in terms of monthly payments. So the Audi Q3 Sportback is placed, in terms of pricing, it is placed smack bang in the middle of some really interesting cars from other car makers, whether it's from the used car market, the parallel import market, or just brand new cars. And that is the real problem with the Q3 Sportback, which I think is a bit of a pity. Why is it so expensive? Because it's a fully imported unit, made in Germany if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's the problem over here. Pricing. So again, the fact of the matter is, the elephant in the room over here is the only reason why we are not seeing a lot more of the Q3 Sportbacks on Malaysian roads is simply because it's a very expensive car. At between the 360 to 370,000 ringgit region, you can get some pretty exciting cars. As I mentioned earlier, the A35 AMG, the BMW M340i, which even though it's slightly more expensive, but when you deduce it to monthly installments, it's actually not that much more expensive. And that's not even considering the second-hand car market. There's no doubt that it's quite the looker. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately though, you can probably get some better deals in the market. Q3 Sportback, the Audi Q3 Sportback, does come with official manufacturer support. Is that enough to justify spending 360, perhaps around the 370,000 ringgit region for the Q3 Sportback? You let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing.